She slept with my cousin and used Tinder regularly, bragging about it, so I had to do what I had to do. Um, my name doesn't matter. What matters is that I was the kind of husband who came home on time, who remembered anniversaries, who, God, I'm embarrassed saying this now, who asked if she was happy, like regularly. Are you happy, babe? Like some golden retriever waiting at the door. She'd smile, say yes, then open Tinder in the bathroom. I know it's a cliche, but I found out the way most men do, accidentally, I believe, because even God wants us to find the truth. It starts with one thing that doesn't add up, a notification you weren't supposed to see, a name that gets said a little too carefully. For me, it was our credit card statement. A hotel 2 miles from our house, Tuesday afternoon. And I work from home on Tuesdays. She told me she'd been at her friend Dana's. I didn't say anything. I just filed it. Here's what I learned about myself in the weeks after that. I have a very calm, very methodical, very cold part of my brain that I did not know existed until my marriage turned into a crime scene I had to document. I went through everything, not in a panic throwing things way, in a forensic way. Emails, location history on her phone when she'd leave it charging. The Tinder app she'd deleted but reinstalled 6 times. Yeah, those leave traces if you know where to look. What I found was not one thing, it was a system. She had a system. Tinder was the main pipeline, but there was one guy, Manny, who was my cousin Derek's best friend. They'd met at our 4th of July barbecue, our barbecue. She'd slept with him 3 times, and based on the text she sent Dana afterwards, she thought it was hilarious. Quote, "The audacity is literally part of the thrill, LMAO." That one sat in my chest for a while. But the text that really the one that I keep coming back to was the voice memo she sent her friend group, her little girl squad of 5. I won't say what she said word for word, but the summary is her husband, me, was completely clueless, completely manageable, and she was living proof that this was the era of the powerful woman, and powerful women take what they want. They all sent back fire emojis. I saved that audio file in 3 places. Here's where I want to be honest with you, because I think most of these stories get told like the guy is some kind of action hero executing a perfect plan from day one. That's not real. There were 2 weeks where I didn't do anything. I'd sit across from her at dinner and watch her laugh at something on her phone and think, I know exactly what that is. And you have no idea that I know. And that feeling is not power. That feeling is grief wearing a mask. I cried in my car outside of Kroger on a Thursday, like actually cried because some part of me still loved the version of her I'd married, or the version I'd thought I married, and realizing those might be 2 completely different women. That's not a chess move, that's a funeral. But I came out the other side of it, and when I did, I was different. Step 1 was financial. I'm not going to walk you through every detail because, honestly, some of it is boring, and some of it is nobody's business. But the short version is I spent 4 months quietly restructuring, moved investments, documented everything that was mine before the marriage, got very, very organized about what our marital assets actually looked like versus what she assumed they looked like. She thought she knew our financial picture. She knew about 60% of it, the 60% I was comfortable with her knowing. I also, and this one matters, I stopped being the guy who handled everything. I'd always paid the bills, managed the accounts, filed the taxes. She was checked out of all of it. I let that continue. I just made sure that when the moment came, the numbers would tell a story she wasn't prepared for. I also hired a very good attorney. Private consultation, paid in cash, told nobody. Step 2 is where it gets tough. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm proud of every decision I made. I'm telling you what happened, not asking for a verdict. But I want you to understand the logic of it because it wasn't random. It was deliberate. She had a social world, 5 women in her core circle, 2 of them, Kayla and Priya. I'd always known were attracted to me. Not because I'm anything special, but because I'd been around long enough to notice things, the way certain conversations ran a little long, the way Kayla hugged me at parties. I'd never done anything with that information. I'd been faithful for 6 years. I stopped being faithful over the course of about 5 months while our marriage was still technically intact and I was running my quiet little parallel operation. I slept with Kayla, then Priya. I wasn't chasing them. I made myself available, which when you're already trusted by them as their friend's husband requires about 12% of the effort you'd think. And then, because I'd already decided to go all the way, there were her cousins, all 3 of them. They don't need to be named. But They were both in that same circle, both knew the voice memo existed, and both had sent fire emojis. I used their pity and sympathy. They looked at me like a lost puppy who doesn't know what is going on with him. And I acted my part. I kept records of everything, dates, screenshots. Not because I'm a psychopath, but because I learned from her that documentation matters. I filed in the spring. She was blindsided, not because she didn't see the marriage deteriorating. She didn't see it at all. That's the thing about being confident. You have someone on a leash. You stop paying attention. Why would you? You're in control. The financial settlement was the first shock. She'd been operating on an assumption of what we were worth and what she'd walk away with. And that assumption was off by enough that her attorney looked uncomfortable in the room. Not half she got something. She got what she was legally entitled to on what existed on paper, but it was nowhere near the number she'd been privately celebrating. I know because Dana told me later she'd already mentally spent it. She contested parts of it. It dragged out. She didn't win the parts she contested. The second thing, the real thing, I didn't do all at once. That would have been messy, chaotic, too much noise. I did it the way I'd done everything else, methodically. It started leaking out over about 3 months after the divorce finalized. First, Kayla and I were seen together publicly, which reached the group. Then I confirmed it when asked directly, calmly, without drama. Yes, Kayla. Before the divorce, but after I knew everything, the group fractured immediately. Then Priya. I'll tell you, I didn't have to do much after that. The group turned on itself because suddenly the women who'd been sitting in that chat, sending fire emojis to a voice memo about how she had her husband completely handled, 2 of them had slept with the husband. It didn't matter whose fault it was or what the context was. The trust was gone. The group chat went quiet. Then it died. And then someone, I don't know who, genuinely, it wasn't me, told her about the cousins. That one I wasn't there for, but I've heard from 2 separate people that she didn't speak for about 30 seconds when she found out. Just sat there. Then it was time for Manny. Everybody in the group knew he was into recreational drugs and had been arrested 2 times for possession, but it was a very small amount, so it led to probation for a misdemeanor. I knew his stashes from the college days, so I just did what a good citizen does, an anonymous call to the police. He was arrested this time. The amount was larger than the previous one, and this time it was his 3rd time, and guess who he called from the station? Yes, my ex-wife. He sweet-talked her into bailing him out. And she did. Then he just vanished into thin air, putting a huge dent in her bank account. And the dream of her new life became smaller. Here's the part of the story people expect to be triumphant. The montage. The hero walks away clean. Yes, the reality is messier than that, and I think you deserve the honest version. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes after you do what I did. Not guilt, exactly, but a hollowness. I'd spent the better part of a year being someone I didn't entirely recognize. The planning, the patience, the coldness of it. That's not who I was before she made me who I became during this. I want to be a simple, loving husband, but the world doesn't want that. About a year after the divorce, she reached out to a mutual friend, not to contact me. She wanted it relayed. She was struggling. The dating apps that had felt like freedom were giving her one-night stands and nothing else. The social circle was gone. 2 of her closest friends weren't speaking to her. Her cousins had pulled back. She'd gone from being the woman at the center of a world she thought she'd constructed perfectly to being alone. I don't know what she wanted me to do with that information. I'd already started seeing someone. I hate her, but I hate the version more that I became. I am doing therapy trying to become more than my hate. The woman I'm with now, she doesn't know the full story. She knows I went through a bad divorce. That's enough for now.